Number 10. Best friends with Tom Cruz. For years, people have speculated about Jada's relationship with the actor, and in her new book, she actually confirms it. After becoming friends on the set of the movie Collateral, Tom and Jada discovered that they have a mutual love of motorcycles, and so they went riding together on his dirt bike track. In her memoir, Jada said that she tried to jump her bike off a ramp, but she wasn't able to manage the landing and she was thrown off the bike. Tom then rushed over to her to make sure that she was alright, and he suggested that they should stop for the day. Quote, "I looked up at him and asked a really important question of him and of myself. How many times have you reminded me not to let fear stand in my way? If I don't get back on this bike right now and do another lap, I may never get on a bike again." Jada said that in response, Tom smiled and helped her get on her feet. And this isn't the only celebrity who gave her advice. Jada said that during a lunch with Warren Beatty, the actor told her that she often comes off as abrasive at times and suggested that she allow her delight to show through more often. And this was the first time anyone had taken the time to put this to her in such a non-judgmental way, so she appreciated it.
One person on this big blue planet who's earned the right to sport a Jada-free membership card, it's none other than her estranged hubby, Will Smith. Let's face it, after 7 years of stealthily living the solo life while still wearing a ring, he's probably got a few pent-up Jada-isms that have him walking on eggshells. This man's life has been a roller coaster of public humiliation, a carnival ride that swings both ways thanks to their mutual shenanigans. And now, she's been giving us all the hot goss on what really went down behind the curtains of the Smith household. Turns out they were not only separated, but Jada was penning love letters to none other than the late rap legend Tupac Shakur. Jada's book has only been out for about a month, and he's already got stress lines for days. It's safe to say the men in black are on red alert, and that once sunny disposition is turning a bit cloudy. Will's now the proud owner of a Jada grudge, and let's just say his feelings for her are starting to look a little independence dimmed. It's not just Will, however, as his son Jaden has also joined in on the fun. One thing that absolutely did not make the world a better place was the revelation that Jaden Smith moonlights as an amateur shaman and introduced his mom to the wonders of hallucinogenic tea. In her grand reveal promoting her tell-all book, she spilled the herbal tea beans, claiming that her son Jaden swooped in as the psychedelic superhero during a particularly dim chapter in her life. Now, it's not like Jaden was holding a daily spiritual summit, but he'd read about the potential mind-bending benefits of this brew and suggested they take a wild ride on the magic tea train. Apparently, it worked wonders, and amazingly, all her gloomy thoughts disappeared. While the whole affair had Jaden, along with his sister, performing a comedic two-person begging act, urging their mother to hit the brakes on the tell-all express. After all, Jaden didn't exactly set out to become the poster child for herbal enlightenment, especially when the magic potion isn't the most legal thing in the United States. Jaden has every right to plead for a little privacy here. I mean, the dude has been thrust into the spotlight since before he was washing windows for Mr. Miyagi. To finish off the Smith trio, Willow has also had some less than savory things to say about her mom. It turns out that Willow and her bro have been playing the opposite day game when it comes to their parental approval rating for eons. Over time, it's become pretty clear that they basically acted as their own lifeguards, with their folks clocking in hours whenever they could, but constantly away due to filming and whatever other obligations they had. And so, like so many other children of celebrities, they were practically raised by a rotating cast of nannies and assistants. So much so that by the time they hit their late teens, they were probably giving the nannies performance reviews. Both Willow and Jaden decided to bail on the Hollywood train their parents had set up for them and went off to create their own epic adventures. Willow by rocking it in the music scene, and Jaden by making ripples in the fashion world. But Willow's got her own mic to drop on this story. Just like her bro, she's thinking, "Mom, can you chill for a second?" It's not like they grew up in Fort Knox, but they still managed to keep a few secrets, unlike their mom, who gives a tell-all interview every time she sneezes. Willow and her brother have shouted from the mountaintops that they wish Jada would cut their dad some slack and keep the family shenanigans a little more low-key. But it really hasn't paid off so far, as you can tell. If it's not Tupac, who can't really call out Jada, the person not personally involved with the Smith family, who's been associated with them the most, is Chris Rock. You've probably heard by now that Jada and Will Smith have been doing the whole separation thing for a while, but here's a new twist in the plot. Before Chris Rock got his impromptu face massage at the Oscars courtesy of Will, he actually tried to ask Jada out. This happened in 2016, right when those separation rumors were all over the news everywhere. Picture this. Chris calls Jada and says, "Hey, I'd love to take you out." Jada, being the quick-witted queen she is, responds with a simple, Why? Chris, thinking he's onto something, reveals the truth bomb that he thought she and Will were on the verge of divorce. Turns out, that was news to Jada, and Chris was left in quite the awkward position. So either he thought he had insider info, or believed everything he read on the internet, which, coming from personal experience, I know you should never do. Jada shared this story, and Chris probably wasn't the biggest fan of the whole ordeal. Some folks even think this little oopsie-daisy might have been the spark that ignited the fiery Will Smith Oscars moment. So along with the physical slap, that seems like a mental one too.
Number 5, Tupac's marriage proposal. Jada recently opened up about her relationship with the late rapper, and this time she claimed that he proposed to her in prison during his stay at Rikers Island. She claimed that it was one of the most painful parts of the memoir writing process. But not everyone was buying her story. In fact, one TikTok user challenged Jada's account with a meticulous timeline that cast doubt on her whole version of events. She was questioning the authenticity of her narrative about her relationship with Tupac, and highlighted a pivotal point during the time Jada claimed Tupac proposed to her when he was already engaged to Keisha Morris. That video questions Jada's consistency when placed against the historical timeline, suggesting that her statements may lack accuracy or cohesion. At the time, Jada was transitioning into a relationship with Will Smith, who had recently separated from his wife. So the situation raises the question of when the alleged visit to Rikers Island and the marriage proposal transpired. After Tupac's release from prison, he got engaged to Kidida Jones, who is the daughter of music legend Quincy Jones. Kidida had been with him until his death 8 months later. So the timeline just doesn't make a lot of sense, and you can see why people have been poking holes in Jada's story. Number 4, the last fight. After his release from prison, Jada said that she met Tupac for lunch, which is when they had an argument. She wrote, "His whole vibe changed since his association with Suge." This argument happened when Jada expressed her concern over his new Get Down, which she says kicked off a hailstorm of rage where he accused her of having gone Hollywood. Quote, "Next thing I knew, he was done talking and so was I." Despite the heated disagreement, Jada said that she believed they would eventually patch things up, but that it was up to Tupac to break the ice first. A year went by where they didn't speak, and before they could repair the rift, he was murdered in Las Vegas, and that is what truly broke her. She wrote, "I never once saw myself on this planet without him here, somewhere on it. I felt a huge piece of love for me leave the world, a part of myself gone. In its place was rageful sadness." So it's incredibly sad that things between them ended the way they did, and they just didn't have enough time to repair their relationship before he was gone. Number 3, bought her own ring. After discovering she was pregnant, Jada wrote that Will proposed by insisting that they tie the knot. At the time, she remembers thinking there was no way she was going to have a baby without him marrying her. Even though she was scared as hell, she recounts going to Harry Winston in Beverly Hills the next day and buying herself a pear-shaped diamond. But why on earth would she buy her own wedding ring? Well, she wrote that by buying her own ring, she took some measure of control and set the message to herself. The message was, get with the program. In the days leading up to the wedding, she said that Will was hyper-focused on work and wasn't really paying attention to the wedding. Her mother, Adrienne, was a different story. Jada said that she felt pressured to have a wedding, even though she preferred to exchange vows with Will in a small mountaintop ceremony. Quote, "But leave it to Adrienne to plead her case to Will." After she cried her eyes out on the phone, Will took her side, assuring her that we would indeed have a wedding after all. So then the big wedding went ahead, and the couple ended up getting married in Baltimore on New Year's Eve in 1997. While Jada did talk about this event in the book, it's also worth noting that she talked about it on the show. On an episode of the Red Table Talk that featured Jada, Will, her mother, and their youngest daughter Willow, Jada thought it would be a good time to talk about their disastrous wedding. She admitted that she did not want to get married and that she felt like she was pressured to do it. Her mother's reaction to the pregnancy was to just start planning the wedding, because not getting married was not an option for her family. At the same time, Jada was still young and trying to make it as an actress in a competitive and complicated industry, so things were really rough back then. Marriage was understandably the first thing from her mind. Adrienne then brought up how the wedding was pretty much a disaster. She said that Jada was sick, unpleasant, and uncooperative the day of the wedding. But you also have to remember that she was gearing up for the biggest moment of her life, and she didn't even want that to happen in the first place. She was 3 months pregnant too, so being sick was probably an understatement. Jada recalled how she was super angry that day and even cried while she was walking down the aisle, while Will was trying to keep up appearances that things were cool. So by now we all know of Jada's affair with August, but it was a secret that she never wanted exposed, and something that she tried to deny up until the very last minute. This is how it all went down. While promoting his third album, August sat down with the Breakfast Club and claimed that the Smiths, who he considered to be like his family, had an open marriage, and Will allegedly gave him permission to date Jada. Quote, "I actually sat down with Will and had a conversation. He gave me his blessing. This was explosive when it first came out, and it's clear that Jada would have prevented it if she could." Almost immediately, her publicist came out with statements denying any romantic involvement, stating that the claims were absolutely not true. But it was already far too late to backtrack, and the couple finally decided to air their dirty laundry on that one episode of the Red Table Talk. Unbeknownst to the world, Jada Pinkett Smith and Gabrielle Union were secretly not speaking to each other for almost 2 decades. The actresses, who both gained prominence in the late 90s, had long-standing tension between them that led to a 17-year-long feud. Although neither of them can pinpoint the exact moment that caused the rift, both admit to feeling awkward around each other during this period. They finally put an end to the silence in a sweet episode of the Red Table Talk, where they both talked about how they've grown in terms of female friendships. Jada said, quote, "She and I did not talk for 17 years and we could not remember why. There was just tension between us every time we would see each other." She said that there was some moment that they just felt like had a bad taste in their mouths, and years later when they finally got on the phone to try to figure out what happened, they apparently could not figure it out. Jada then suggested that it was probably just the two of them being young divas, but even now they still don't know for sure. Number 9, Chris Rock asked her out. This one was a little hard to believe considering just how much their relationship has soured over the years. But according to Jada, there was once a time that Chris Rock was interested in her romantically, and she considered him as well. She said that she got to know another side of Chris while they filmed the 2005 movie Madagascar. She wrote, "I found him to be quirky, with an unexpected sweetness, and very intelligent, with a biting wit that's impressive if you were on the right side of it." Jada claimed that she would later feel the burn of being on the wrong side of it when Chris targeted her during his 2016 Oscars monologue, the year that she and Will Smith publicly sat out the awards ceremony over a lack of nominations for industry members of color. Jada said that she was shocked that she was being called out. She wrote, "Why me? When there are so many others who have been more vocal." The dig was even more baffling to Jada, given that she says Chris once asked her out. This was around the time that rumors were going around that she and Will had been divorced. Apparently, Chris called to ask her out on a date, but once he found out that she wasn't actually divorced, the two of them just laughed about it and he apologized profusely. Number 8, exposing their fake marriage. Jada revealed the truth about her relationship with Will, and it was not all that people expected. We now know that they have been separated and have lived completely separate lives since 2016, nearly 20 years after they married in 1997. In a new interview, Jada details more about their relationship, both how it started and where it stands now. So here's the story. While the two of them are legally married, Jada said that her and Will are no longer romantically together, though they never actually got divorced on paper. When she was asked about why she never shared their relationship status before, she said it just came down to them not being ready yet and still trying to figure out between the two of them how to be in this new partnership. And also, they just hadn't figured out how to present that to people. When asked about what led to their relationship fracture, Jada said there was a lot of reasons. Quote, "By the time we got to 2016, we were just exhausted with trying. I think we were both kind of still stuck in our fantasy of what we thought the other person should be." Jada says that she has considered a legal divorce. She's never been able to go through with it. Number 7, that Red Table Talk episode. During the couple's 2020 episode of the Red Table Talk, they opened up about her entanglement with singer August Alsina. According to Jada, Will wasn't originally supposed to be on the show with her, but he later decided to join. She wrote, "Frankly, I was surprised, pleasantly so, considering we weren't together, and given where we were sitting in our relationship at the time, that was unexpected." She said that it felt like a powerful offering, but she was then surprised when the conversation with Will took an unexpected turn, when he made it sound like he was the one who had been done wrong. Quote, "At this point, Will had been free as a bird for the last 4 years, living his life on his own terms." She said that Will framed her relationship with August to make it seem like it had been a secret to him when that wasn't true, which is where she should have stopped the conversation. But Jada did not want to oppose her husband publicly. She said that instead she decided to take the blame. They ended the conversation on a lighter note, but apparently Will got in a final sting. Quote, "Laughing but truly serious, he proclaimed that we were okay, but with the caveat, 'I'm gonna get you back first.'" which she was not too happy with. Number 6, obsession with Tupac. For a while, Jada has been criticized by fans for her obsession with the late rapper Tupac Shakur, and so far she seems to have no plans of stopping, even though it probably embarrasses Will Smith. So last month, she posted a throwback video of herself and Tupac on Instagram. They were dancing along and lip-singing to the Fresh Prince 1988 hit song, Parents Just Don't Understand. In the caption, she wrote, "Here is part of the original video of Pac and I doing a terrible job at lip-syncing Parents Just Don't Understand." Then in a 2018 episode of Red Table Talk, Jada also opened up to her daughter and her mother about her relationship with him, and she claimed that they shared an instant connection upon meeting and they became pretty inseparable. She said that over the years he wrote many letters to her and many poems, and then she read a private one that he sent her, which she claims has not even been published. While Jada does get some criticism for how much he reveals about their relationship, fair to say that his death had a major impact on her. She said, "That was a huge loss in my life because he was one of those people that I expected to be here. My upset is more anger because I felt that he left me."
The world got a royal jolt when R&B singer August Alsina spilled the beans on one of the juiciest rumors in the Jada and Will saga, fessing up to having a 2015 affair with Jada. And you won't believe what he said next. In an interview that had more twists than an M. Night Shyamalan movie, he claimed he sat down with Will and got his blessing. Can you imagine that conversation? Will was left scratching his head, and Jada, ever the maestro of melodrama, spilled the rest of the tea on Red Table Talk. She whipped out her regret card and described her little rendezvous as an entanglement. Picture 2 Christmas lights all tangled up in a box. It's a festive metaphor for sure. Now, the world couldn't decide whether to be puzzled about her airing her dirty laundry online for the world to see, or concerned that she brought August into this. After all, he was just a fresh-faced 22-year-old struggling with an autoimmune condition, making constant hospital visits. Jada even threw in the fact that she was his mentor at the time. It's like she had an affair and gave him life advice on the side. Now, that is a true multitasker. After Jada told the world about her entanglement, it became quite the nuisance for a lot of people. For 50 Cent, it was like an annoying mosquito that just wouldn't leave him alone. Social media went into a frenzy, with users flocking to Instagram to share their 2 cents, including none other than 50 Cent himself. He decided to give his buddy Will a piece of his mind, asking why Jada chose to air her laundry on a global stage. He even went on to say, she only says she can give permission for someone to blow her back out. Is that like inflating a balloon with an air pump? Will's response? Let's just say it involved more colorful language than a Picasso painting. Fast forward to October 2021, and 50 Cent was still not the biggest fan of Jada's antics. He's not alone in this boat. It seems like a whole shitload of folks have a bone to pick with her. Jada seems to have a knack for picking the juiciest moments to stir the pot, and her book Revelations are no exception. If you've watched that interview where she spills the beans, you've probably noticed her skillful zoning out and faking her way through the conversation, all while probably having a secret maniacal laugh inside her head. 50 Cent understandably questioned why she decided to share her life story with the world, especially when it left her character in the hot seat. But just a reminder, this is Jada Pinkett Smith we're talking about. Gabrielle Union and Jada's red carpet encounters were like a series of comedic collisions, as their careers seemed to tangle up more than headphone wires in a pocket. You might recognize Gabrielle from Bring It On or Meet Dave, while Jada Smith made her memorable mark in Scream 2 and The Nutty Professor. But when they found themselves together, it wasn't the friendliest. Rumor has it that Jada didn't exchange a word with Gabrielle for a whopping 17 years, and she couldn't even recall why. Talk about long-term tension. Then a few years ago, Jada finally decided to extend an olive branch and clear the air. Their chat ended with a mutual epiphany that they were both divas back in the day, and they had diva-sized mentalities to match. Jada even had Gabrielle over to her Red Table Talk. During the heartfelt chat, Jada spilled the tea, admitting that she was in a not-so-pleasant place back then, but has upgraded the old mental real estate since. Union later popped up on Today and shared the revelation that their insecurity was the real villain behind the rift. Now, isn't it funny how they were suddenly able to chat it out once there was a platform to record and release their conversation? Make amends with a fellow celeb, and make some online moolah. It's a double win. That's the Hollywood way. Alyssa Griffin, co-host of The View, couldn't help but let her thoughts fly, and she's got a bone to pick with Jada Pinkett Smith. In a podcast episode of Behind the Table, Griffin went on a comedic rampage, expressing her admiration for the accomplished actress, while also scratching her head in confusion. She asked, why in the world would Jada put all her information out there for the world to see? I mean, some things are best kept hidden. With a puzzled expression, Griffin mused about Jada's lack of consideration for Will's feelings. It's like she's going going on a solo journey through the world of oversharing. And let's not forget the estranged but undivorced status of 7 years of separation without the papers to show for it. Jada's been singing the no divorce anthem, but with the recent revelations, who knows? Will might be dusting off his lawyer's number as we speak. In the grand circus of Hollywood, it seems Jada's got a front row seat for the drama, and Alyssa Griffin is more than willing to share her popcorn and commentary. It's a showbiz showdown for the ages. When Tessa Thompson discussed her role in the unsuccessful Men in Black reboot, Men in Black International, she expressed admiration for Will Smith's contribution to the original film. She commended him for breaking barriers in Hollywood, allowing people of color to bring their authentic identities to studio films, and many other things. However, some other celebrities believe that Will Smith has not done nearly enough to support the acting community. Lena W, who directed the thriller Queen and Slim in 2019, pointed out that Brad Pitt's production company funded critically acclaimed black-led films like 12 Years a Slave and Moonlight. She called out Will and Jada Pinkett Smith, noting that while they have their production company, they primarily use it to promote movies for Will. Waith asserted that she would never be content making $20 million per movie without also financing at least 4 or 5 independent films. It's worth noting that Waith faced significant backlash for her statements, with some fans accusing her of a gratuitous violence in Queen and Slim, and later in the Amazon series Them, which she also produced. Our last point goes out to you, loyal fans of Jada, the hype squad that never signed up for this drama-filled roller coaster. While it's true that not every single fan has joined the chorus, there's been a good old ton of them chiming in on this wild ride. It's like a virtual flash mob. Folks flock into social media, from Instagram to Facebook to Twitter, all shouting, "Jada girl, you need to hit the brakes." After years of love, devotion, and peeking through the curiosity keyhole, they're finally saying she's taken things a bit too far. In a world where even her co-stars and her own offspring are dishing out info, feels like we're on the verge of knowing her toothpaste preferences. Who needs a biography when you have Jada's social media feed? Fans, bless their hearts, are trying to wrangle this whirlwind of revelations like the MVPs of online sanity.